Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Ice Cream Parlor. Today, let me cough, we're going to be talking about hyper offense, everybody's favorite style of offensive play. Today's very special because I'm announcing, no, not announcing, SPDL has another draft, a minors league starting practically tomorrow, and that means we have, whoops, is that as low as it goes? Okay. And we have points. So, of point tiers now. So this is very epic games. I'm going to be referring to this too if you're playing in a points draft. Tiers will look similar to this. I trust these tiers because these two tiers, because Rabbit made this one and I made these. I primarily made these, and then the league voted on it. Same thing with Rabbit. Rabbit made these and the league voted on it. Or he didn't make these and we yoinked them. But I know we made these, so that's what's up. Today we're talking hyper offense. Few things to know about hyper offense is, again, reason we're doing one for each is because maybe you do want to play hyper offense. It's your first league, but hey, you play hyper offense and you peaked, I don't know, 1600 with hyper offense and you think you're pretty good with it, and you really don't want to go into learning a different style before your first draft, and it's just going to be a lot easier and simpler if you can just use hyper offense. That's fine. That's good. It's good for you for knowing your own abilities and playing to your strengths. So that's very awesome. So we're just gonna talk about what to look for, how to draft stuff. What else? That's interesting. Yeah, we're gonna be going through all of that and all unscripted as per usual. First off, I think that's all we talked about. Oh yeah, guest episodes coming soon. Very, very soon. If the music's too loud, I'm sorry, but it should be, the audio should be a little better this time. Tier 1. So we're just going to go through, like we did last time with stall, and we're just going to go tier by tier, and we're just going to talk about what's useful for hyper offense. And first, let's talk about hyper offense, right? So hyper offense, similar thing with stall. Don't play something you're not, right? Don't try to wall things with hyper offense. It's about keeping your opponent on his back foot and always applying constant pressure, keeping offensive momentum. Basically, don't let your opponent breathe, right? That's the point. There are a few different variants of hyper offense, like there's rain hyper offense, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to be primarily talking about the hyper offense that you're going to be building. So first tier, Tapu Lele is an excellent mon if you can get Tapu Lele with, say, let's talk about Megas first. If you can get Tapu Lele with Mega Alakazam, that's a wonderful offensive core. Mega Medicham is also excellent. Pinsir is okay, but you need a lot of removal to support with that. If you want a lower tier one, Mega Sceptile can work, but usually it needs setup. Mega Alakazam though, Mega Gyarados kind of too. You can build hyper offense around Mega Gyarados. Mega Lopunny, Mega Medicham. Those are all your options. Sharpedo too, kind of. You can have to build it on Sharpedo. But specifically, if we want like a hyper offensive core, a very good one is going to be Tapu Lele plus Mega Alakazam. It's obviously double special, but it's very, very powerful. Yeah, it's insanely powerful. If you can get it, you're probably not going to be able to get it with all of the like no one's going to let you get that. I mean, it can happen, but usually someone else is aiming for at least one of them. So it'll be very hard to, but you can try. Right off the bat, Blacephalon can be good. Beast Boost is a very excellent ability, works well with Scarf and Specs. It's incredibly fast and incredibly powerful, so you really won't probably need to run all of that into HP. Speed creeping is a very big deal in hyper offense because getting that extra little bulk might be able to let you live one hit. Sorry, I needed to drink water. Yeah, speed creeping is very big because letting you live that one hit is very important. There's a lot of options here in this first tier. Deoxys speed is something I think a couple leagues are allowing. Not as good in my opinion, or no, it's very good. I don't think, my opinion is that it shouldn't be allowed. It's not going to be allowed often, but if it is, it's a good mon because Being so fast, like you can't get taunted. You'll be able to get up screens, teleport out. You know, get negative priority on a fast mon, which is very big. Dracovish, Darm, and Dragonpult are all good. Darm is predictable, so is Dracovish, but so is Hyper Offense. So just playing that whole game where you can just what's coming but can't stop it type of thing. Dragonpult is interesting because it can go both ways, physical and special, which is a big deal when you're playing Hyper Offense. You're got a lot of offensive versatility, meaning that it's not like every mon is physical, or it's not like every mon is biased toward physical. There can be a mon that can go both ways. Actually, Dragonpult's good. I believe in points. Oh no, Darm is pretty high. I've seen a couple leagues where Darm was down here. Dracovish, I know, is valued quite low. Draco. Oh, never mind. 16's right. 16's good. 16 is still quite valuable, I think. Yeah, see, like right here. I don't know why Mega 8 is so high. Yeah, I don't know why that's so high. That's interesting to me. Yeah, as you can see here, Deoxys speed is banned. Deoxys defense is getting allowed, I think, in some leagues. Mega Medicham, quite cheap here. As you're going to see, though, for points, where is Tapu Lele is very expensive. Mega... Why can't I find it? Zam is going to be very expensive. Oh, it'll be at the top somewhere. Oh, did Mega Zam get banned? Oh, probably. Mega Zam's probably banned. A lot of leagues will allow Mega Alakazam, like, without Nasty Plot. I got Nasty Plot this generation, which is problematic, but a lot of leagues will just ban Nasty Plot and not the entire mon, which is cool. I don't really mind that as much. I think it's fine. Other than that, Gengar can be useful, but I feel like it's just not as valuable as Dragonpult or Dracovish or Darm. Infernape's an excellent one because it can go both ways. If you have enough free points or you're able to manipulate stuff with your Mega, Infernape's very good. It's usually quite cheap in points too. You're going to see here it's 15 points only, which is very good. It can go both ways, works well with every single choice item. It's an excellent Z move user. Nasty Plot, Sword Dance, Calm Mind, Bulk Up. Very good move pool, all of that. Cortana is great because it can kind of stockpile sweep with Scarf. Obviously, Boost is a big deal. Being able to clean through teams is excellent. Latios and Latios are good options because they give you a ground immunity, which is going to help us later on if you decide to do that. Salamence can be good. We talked about Lele being the best. Coco is very good too. Tracheon can be very good. Both the Urshifus are very good. I think Urshifu Single Strike style is just better. It breaks through more. Very few things resist it. But usually they're very expensive. Like Single Strike style is up here. I think Rapid Strike should be back down here, 15. So they're both very good. Single Strike is just much better though. Zero Aura is good too. We talked about it last time with Stall, but same thing here. It can go both ways. It's very fast. Letting you take advantage of all that speed to speed creep and to add some extra to bulk is very nice. Volcarona can be good. Not as good as Petini, I think. It just requires way too much setup. Thundurus is too slow, in my opinion, but it can be very good. But I think Thundurus is quite cheap. Thundurus, yeah, quite cheap. I'm sorry. Okay. That's kind of it. Draco, yeah, just take advantage of points. If you're playing with points, take advantage of whatever is the cheapest and what you want to use. For instance, I think that Dracovish at 15 and Infernape at 15 is very good. Both the Latios are good. Obviously, you're going to have to spend some up here. Urshifu Single Strike, Tapu Lele. The problem with Urshifu Single is pretty slow, but you can obviously patch it up later on with higher speed tiers. Another thing you're going to want, though, we can talk about that now. You're going to want something that's kind of slow to you so you don't get absolutely messed up by Trick Room. Like right here, 11 points would be Hatterene. You can try take that if you're in point draft. Hatterene would be like tier 2 here, or tier 1. Yeah, Hatterene I think is just way too expensive. But for 11 points, I think it's quite a steal if you want a good Trick Room on. Something that's so that if you face Trick Room, you're not absolutely getting demolished by Trick Room. Which is important. Not getting absolutely wrecked by Trick Room is a very big deal. tier 2, by far, by and large, best tier 2 is going to be Alola Ninetales. For a couple reasons. Number one, the Aurora Veil plus Hail is very nice. Getting passive ship on your opponent while being able to set up. I mean, you get passive ship on yourself as well, but it means more on hyper offense that the opponent is shipped down a little bit, so you might not have to run band or a life orb and drain your own HP. Hail works excellent, or Aurora Veil works excellently with setup mons. Being able just to maybe set up one or two things. Scolipede can be nice. We talked about, well, Urge Boosting Projectile was tier 2 low here. I'm not sure how Zarude would do, but I think Zarude could be fine. Reuniclus is another good Trick Room option. Not as good as Hatterene, because Hatterene gives you Magic Bounce, which I think is very important. Digreev is good on the slower side. Crawdon's good on the slower side. Regular base Alakazam is very good as well. The other thing that the Ninetales did, Ninetales is pretty. I think Ninetales can be quite expensive. Will an A go after? I swear I just saw it. Am I tripping? Ninetales. Yeah, 12 points. It's quite cheap if you ask me. It's an excellent speed tier. I believe it comes in at like, yeah, 109 is very good speed tier. Guess I jump on 105s, and especially 100s, which is important. Can't be taunted about anything slower. Whoops. But yeah, it's a very good bond, for, mainly for helping the other mons on your team set up if they need it. I talked about Scolipede. Superior is good because it kind of stockpiles, and not stockpiles, it kind of runs through. A web sitter can be nice too, an offensive web sitter. We'll get to that in a moment, but that's good because your opponent will most likely have their own Scarfed Mon or something to try and maybe outpace you. So having a web sitter, kind of like Accelgor, a couple bulky mons is fine if you wanted to take a Raccoonia. That's okay, especially so you don't just get mopped by Dracovish. Dracovish or really Darm too. Tier 3s, Darmanitan's good. Sheer Force, Life Orb, all of that. Hyper Offense is kind of tough to build for, in my opinion. Galvantula's good for momentum. That's another thing. You want a lot of momentum, right? So Coco's U-Turn. Obviously, you won't get any with low tails, but lots of momentum. Incineroar can be good because of the Intimidate. Indeedee good if you can't afford Lele. You can just grab Indeedee. With Expanding Force, it actually hits disgustingly hard this generation. That's another thing. Magneton and Magnezone, which are excellent for trapping steals. If you can maybe pick up something that has a hard time breaking through steals. Say you take Kartana, you're gonna have a hard time breaking through steals. Grabbing Magnezone could be very nice for you. Bombee is very fast web setter. So now with the other fairy type though, so if you're gonna take the ice one, if you're gonna take tails, don't do that. Unless you want to, really. If you want to, then you can, I guess. Let me on. Whim's good as well. Very similar thing to, yeah, you just want to keep your momentum. So maybe something with flip turns now a big deal. Greninja can be good for keeping momentum. Galvantula is very good because it gets webs and momentum. We talked about that. Chandelure can be very good because it has such a high base special attack that it can kind of just destroy. Like, if your opponent tries to outwall you, Spec Shandy is just going to break through them. Like, it hits disgustingly hard. A Raccoonia is very good. Tier 4? For Tier 4, Accelgor is very... Accelgor is very, very good. I feel like I'm, like, forgetting to talk about stuff. Am I missing something? Oh, okay. Yeah. So, Beryllium, I forgot to mention Beryllium. Beryllium is very good. We kind of skimmed over Tier 2. Let's go back to that really fast. Beryllium is very good for Spore. It's an excellent Sash user. That's another thing. Sash users are very big. It can be very important. Just getting that guaranteed setup turn or guaranteed live something. A couple crutch defensive mons is not a bad thing either. Like Renew gets teleport, something a little bulkier, maybe just to give you some sort of momentum or something to kind of, you know, live one hit and kill another thing is very big. Toxicity can be good, but it's quite weak to, well, it's very weak to ground. And if you're taking a Lowland Ninetales, which actually is very good for a couple reasons. Firstly, it activates Slush Rush for a couple mons, specifically Bear Tick and Alolan Sand Slash. Those two are quite good low tiers, if you ask me. Especially with that assistance, that speed boost. So being able to grab one of those for a low tier pick and not have to worry about spending too much points on them or wasting your tier is very good. Please tell, right there. So 4 points right there. So that's going to be 4 points. You're very cheap for a ice core, little cute ice core you can have going on there, which I think can be very big. Especially because it's so cheap and you're not paying for much on it. What else? Although the Marowak can be very good, so you don't get absolutely dunked on by a Trick Room. But usually you want spending your tier 4 on something else, maybe with a bit more momentum. Although the Raichu is very good actually this generation in conjunction with Tapu Koko because Rising Voltage kind of just destroys things. Let's go to a... Let's look at a calc for Raichu. And let's look at... let's Registeel, right? So we take UU Specially Defensive, which is max calm. Rising Voltage from Alolan Raichu in the terrain is doing 50%. Right, I know that doesn't OHKO or anything, but that means that Registeel cannot switch in. And Registeel not being able to switch into an electric type attack is absurdly powerful. You can run through a lot of things on your team. And that's another thing is terrain mons. So if you can make a hyper offense team kind of based on terrain, say you're making a hyper offense team based around expanding force, then you might want to, you know, maybe not take Tapu Lele because you don't need it as much, but take something else up here that can benefit positively from psychic terrain. Say something that doesn't want to get hit with priority too much, or Hawlucha instead, and then you can come down here and take an Indeedee, and then you have Indeedee plus Hawlucha. It doesn't cost you nearly as much, and you have a little psychic terrain core going that can kind of abuse that can take advantage of your opponent's mons. Zen Headbutt from Mega. Oh, it's over here. Mega. Where'd it go? Mega Medicham can be very deadly too, since Mega Medicham also takes advantage of the terrain. Alakazam. Obviously, don't stack too much on this because you don't want to get too Sucker Punch weak in case you do lose your Indeedee. But yeah, it can be very good. I mean, Hawlucha plus Indeedee is very scary. Adding an Alakazam or a Mega Medicham on top of that is just deadly. And then if you do manage to get the Alolan Sand Slash, grabbing the Ice Core is very big because there aren't a lot of things low tier that can compete with other mons, but having the Slush Rush abuse is very good. Duosion also can be very nice since it's kind of bulky, especially with the Violet. You can get Trick Room up and maybe not Trick Room as much, but it stops you from getting Trick Room dunked on. Alolan Golem is similar to what we talked about last time, Trapping a Steel. Trapping a Steel is very big because a lot of mons offensively have a hard time breaking through bulky steals. Like, even though we showed this calc right here, if it was in Raw and you just had to click it, Earthquake would do a lot of damage back, right? And after leftovers, it does not kill. Or not always. It actually has a very good chance to kill. It's very powerful. That's if you had it with Tapu Koko, right? Obviously, because you're going to have both. Electric Terrain offense, Hyper Offense is a bit more expensive because you're going to be taking 2 tier 1s, which isn't always bad, but it costs you a lot of free points. And a lot of times in point drafts, they're both going to be quite expensive. Hawlucha, I don't see those two. Like here, Tapu Koko is one of the most expensive ones. Hawlucha shouldn't be too far behind, right? Hawlucha shouldn't be too far behind. What's Hawlucha? What? It's banned? What am I looking at here? Oh, 13? Oh yeah, that's incredibly cheap if you ask me. But in tiers, it'll be 2 tier 1s, right? Which is kind of difficult manage points, but in points only draft, this can be very good steal, and it's quite cheap if you pair it like if you're gonna take a little Ninetales plus Slash Rush Abuser. Webster is very good. You want to keep things with momentum. Obviously, I've said that a few times now, but keeping good momentum is very big. Prankster can be very important too. Maybe if you wanted to pick up Klefki or something to, spread rocks, get that passive damage. Thunder Wave is very important, or can be very important, to allow faster mons to run banned or not need to worry too much about opponents scarfing their mons. Taunt can be very deadly for an opponent's wall too if they're trying to Will-O-Wisp you or trade their life for a Will-O-Wisp or something. Will-O-Wisp is very deadly against Hyper Offense. A lot of times you're faster, but you can't switch into things. Hyper Offense is, I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but Hyper Offense is a very high risk, high reward playstyle. And it's going to be quite hard to it's going to be just quite hard to play around with, especially with your first time in a draft when the opponent knows it's coming. Like predictability, right? They can predict sets. They can have prep for Hyper Offense. They can hold a berry, a super effective resistance berry, and either remove you or Will-O-Wisp you very big. Ditto is a huge problem for Hyper Offense. Similar thing with stall, or how stall it's very helpful for stall. It's a very big problem for Hyper Offense because getting Ditto like just coming in and putting the reverse sweep on you can be very, very frustrating. It's very hard to set up It's very hard to wall because if the Ditto is out against your mon. Say you have Gengar on Gengar. The opponent's Ditto has you have Shadow Ball obviously, and say you're in range to getting O-Code, you don't have a lot of switch-ins to that, right? So that can be very annoying if it plays like a tit-for-tat game because it will be faster most of the time. Tier 5, there isn't too much in Tier 5. We talked about Beartic with Slush Rush ability. Shoutout I think is slept on quite a bit because Cloudster is very big because it has Terrain Pulse, right? So if you're building a Terrain Hyper Offense, you can get this for Terrain Pulse and you'll be doing an incredible amount of damage with Mega Launcher. Chatot is very good for Boom Burst. Stab Boom Burst is very hard to switch into. Talked about Devotion. Ice Cube is interesting. It's funny to play around with, I guess, but being, its ability only being affected if you hit it physically is a big deal because the opponent can just slap on like HP Fire or something. Frogadier I think is quite interesting because you can play around with its ability. It's not Rock Sweep when you switch stuff into it, so it can be very deadly, I think. Since the opponent kind of has, it's very offensively versatile mon, right? So you can do a lot of things with it offensively, even though it's Frogadier. Lapras could be good. Lapras is interesting because it's quite bulky, so it can usually take one hit and dish it out. Specs Lapras hits incredibly hard. It has a very good move pool. I think Thunder, Blizzard, Freeze Dry, Hydro Pump, Psychic, all of those very good moves. Normal Metacham I think is slept on, especially if you're going to take a DD. But Mega Metacham always performs better. But if you want more free points, you can take a cheaper Mega. So you want to take a cheaper Mega. Let's just say whoopsie daisy. Let's just say you want to take I don't know, Mega Absol, or I don't know, Mega Manectric or something like that, because both of them are quite good, and you get a little bit extra free points to play around with here. Lower tiers, having a couple, I think I said this already, but having a couple bulky mons isn't too bad. But you definitely don't want to stray away from being a Hyper Offense team. And you don't want to be disjointed as a Hyper Offense team either. I'm not as experienced in Hyper Offense. I've seen a lot of it played. I saw a mono Psychic team that was based around Psychic Terrain do very, very well. The Rotom forms is good. I think Rotom normal especially can be very good. Although Sandslash is tier 5 along with Beartic, we saw that already. Shedinja is interesting. It's kind of niche, but I guess if you wanted to, it makes it it kind of makes it easier for the opponent to, or makes it harder for the opponent to slap on whatever they want, um, because you are going to be, not affected by a lot of things. Another thing you're going to be weak to is priority, specifically like Excel Rock, Ice Shard, Fake Out, Mach Punch. Those are going to be kind of problematic. Finding a way around that is a very, very important thing to do. Something that I think you definitely can do is take to Serena. Queenly Majesty makes her immune to priority moves, so that can be very good. It's not exactly hyper offense, but it has a good speed tier, very interesting speed tier. And with Queenly Majesty, which I said that already. It's not a great speed tier. 72 is alright, but it can definitely be one of your slower mons. It can kind of go both ways. With the addition of Room Service, I think it's very interesting how Trick Room can play out this generation. It has U-Turn, which is excellent. Grass typing is very good, especially bulky. Knockoff is excellent. It has screens if you wanted to. Rapid Spin's important. It has Triple Axle now, which I think is very good coverage for it, especially against flying types or something like that. If your opponent has a flying type, and hey, you have Triple Axle. Is that kind of it? Hyper Offense is very simple, but definitely making your opponent work around having to work and prep to, wall that. Like in Rock Dusk is actually something very good because, like I said earlier, racking up passive rocks damage is very big, and offensive rockers can do that for you. For instance, say you have Lycan Rock, it's going to force out your opponent's, it's going to force out your opponent's Bombee into something else, and all of a sudden you can go ahead and set up rocks. And then you get nice, slow, passive damage. We said Hatterene good because of Magic Bounce. Ditto is a very big issue. Grimstar can be very good too, I think, because Prankster. I believe we touched on Prankster a little bit already. Megas, let's look at Megas again. So Megas here. Lopunny is very good now because it has U-Turn and Triple Axle. So I think that's very, very useful for it. It's weak to Mach Punch and stuff, but that can kind of be circumvented if you play around it right. Mega Scissor is interesting because it's quite slow, but it could be, excellent offensively. Base Torpedo has Speed Boost, which is kind of a big deal, especially if you wanted to risk like Speed Boost. What is the word? Speed Boost, Swords Dance, or just wanted to protect Speed Boost and make sure you're the fastest thing on the field. Strong Jaw is an excellent ability. Mega Pincer is interesting, but you're going to need a lot of offensive mons that can also remove hazards with that. So we kind of talked about earlier. Whoopsie daisies. What just happened here? Coco's kind of important if you're going to have anything offensively. So Mew can be good because Mew can kind of go Mew can do everything. It has Defog. Latios both have Defog. Landorus has Defog. Kartana has Defog. Halucha, I believe, has Defog. I mean, you're not using Defog Halucha too often, but if you are, and you need to make way for Mega Pinsir to sweep, if you grab Mega Pinsir, grab a Web Setter, like Arachnoid, which is going to help you not get steamrolled by Dracovish. We talked about that. Playing against a team with good walls and Dracovish is going to be like a huge issue because you can't always play the Revenge Kill game, get ahead and play Revenge Kill because their walls are going to make it very difficult. Overwhelming your opponent's good. Darmanitan is good specifically because it forces another mon. Darmanitan and Dracovish are good specifically because they force a mon on your opponent's team to have to be scarfed the vast majority of the time if they can't wall it, which is very often. So being able to predict that and mess around with them that way is good. We talked about Breloom, Technician, Mach Punch, and I believe we talked about Scissor with Technician, Bullet Punch. Both of them can be very good. Both of them have knockoff, I think. Spore is excellent. Spore is good because you can Spore, get out, Swords Dance, set up on something, or whatever. Take advantage of your opponent's walls. Subsets are very big if the opponent has a Chansey, and you have Dragapult, sub up on that Chansey, and Swords Dance your way to victory. Crawdon's important because it knocks off your opponent's. Everything with knockoff is very important because taking away your opponent's walls, leftovers, can be a very big deal. Taunt can be a very, very big deal. Don't mess around with Ditto. I actually suggest taking Ditto just so that you can't get reverse swept or anything like that, and you can actually play mind games with your opponent. Galvantula can be very good. Make sure everything has offensive momentum to play to your strengths. Don't try to wall things off. Heracross is actually very good for Moxie. Can Moxie stockpile things. Incineroar is good. Inteleon, eh. What else down here is good? Obstagoon is very good because obviously the power of like Guts Boost and Knock Off is insane. Primarina is good. Primarina can be good. Talonflame has priority defog at full, and with the addition of heavy duty boots, really help this mon. Yeah, lower tier 4 Pangoro with parting shots, kind of important. Noivern U-turn is very fast, very good. Mesprit has U-turn. Actually, I don't recommend Mesprit as much. That's not as good. Hitmontop, Rapid Spin. It's a little on the bulky side, but it can definitely do the job. What else here? I'm a little tired, but hope this is all making sense. Cryogonal is good because it's very fast for Rapid Spin. It's a nice type though, so make sure you're not stacking that. Make sure you're not stacking rock weaknesses either. I mean, if you are, make sure you have a lot of removal. I think this gets Rapid Spin. Yeah, just make sure you play to your strength. If I'm gonna have to recommend one mon from tier 1, it's gonna be Dragapult, just because it's so offensively viable. If not, actually, I think there are a lot of things, right? We talked about all of these already. If you're gonna take Kartana, make sure you take a Steel Trapper, whether it's I think it was Alolan Golem, or Magnezone. I think those are very good. It just depends on really what you're trying to build around, right? We talked about a little bit of everything, but let's kind of review it right now. If we're going to talk about electric terrain, you're going to want Koko, you're going to want Hawlucha, you're going to want Alolan Raichu. Stuff lower, like Hitmonlee can be cool. For not Ferrothorn as much, but having something that can maybe take one hit is pretty cool. I don't recommend spending your free point on that. Dracozolt is very interesting because you can maybe not run Hustle, you can run the other thing. I think it's something stupid, but if you're under electric terrain, it's not going to be too big of a difference. Knockoff's important. Make sure you try to do your very best to get a little Ninetales. It's actually going to be so useful. If you can get like screens up, you can go to Koko, you turn out into Hawlucha. Like you kind of just win the game at that point, right? Hawlucha works very well with Indeedee as well. I don't recommend if you're gonna do electric terrain. You definitely can take Lele, but it's usually extremely expensive or it costs you the tier. The tier 3 is much better with Expanding Force. Expanding Force abusers, both Alakazams can work. This one is actually very interesting because Specs. What's the electric one? What's the Expanding Force? It's extremely powerful. Get a knockoff user. Removing your opponent's item is very important, especially if they're going to try to play a long game and maybe stall you out. Removing the leftovers can be big. Like as you saw earlier, if you got rid of the leftover, maybe the knockoff from, I don't know, maybe the knockoff from something weaker. Say you did pick up Ferrothorn and you knocked off Registeel's item. That means there's no way that Raichu can, it can ever live to have different ways to mitigate priority weakness. Ice Shard, Mach Punch, Fake Out, Bullet Punch, all those are extremely problematic. Make sure you have a way around that. If that means, hey, you're switching Hawlucha into Mach Punches, that's fine. Just find a way around it. You're not going to be around too long anyway. Landorus is interesting because it has such a great defensive typing and Intimidate, as well as being able to go, obviously having momentum. U-turn, Earthquake, Scarf, Band, works well with pretty much every set. Excellent as a user. Infernape, very good. Don't sleep on Infernape. Kartana, very good. Again, it has to do with like the type of hyper offense you're going for, right? If you're going for, we talked about electric terrain, psychic terrain. If you're just going straight hyper offense, there are so many options for you to build around. It's crazy. If they're allowing Mega Mawile, that can be very big. If you want to build Trick Room hyper offense, then I do definitely suggest We're gonna talk about Trick Room later. Never mind. Don't worry about that yet. Don't worry about that yet. What else is there? How long are we? 35 minutes. I feel like I didn't talk nearly as much as I wanted to, or I gave as much info as I wanted to. Runecliffe works well with Expanding Force, but that's a lot of psychic weaknesses. Rotom Heat can be very good because it's immune to ground and has Volt Switch and stuff. Slowbro, not as good. I was hoping the new Slowbro could be more offensively tailored. I know it is offensively tailored, but it's still not very good. Savali gives you that level of versatility that could be very useful. Togekiss gives you the 100% skill. It activates 100% of your brain so that you can flinch things to death. So that could be very good. Volcanion is bulky water that can use specs and utilize offensive pressure very well. It doesn't have recovery, so usually it doesn't get taken as your bulky water or anyone else's bulky water, but you can definitely use it offensively, which is kind of how it was meant to be used if you look at Volcanion stats and all that. The water immunity is very good because you can switch into Skulls and stuff and not have to worry about being burned. Cloyster is very good, I think. Can be very good. Talking about Araquanid. I think that's kind of it. Yeah, so quick recap. Make sure you understand which hyper offense you're building, whether that's electric terrain, psychic terrain, like basic. If you want like a bit of a not slower, but you want more balanced. Mainly, you only have really three kinds. You have standard hyper offense, electric terrain, psychic terrain. Those are kind of the main three that I see people use a lot. Rain hyper offense is different. We're gonna be talking about a different episode in the weather episode. Make sure you understand value. So if you see something here that is extremely valuable, so like let's say maybe you are able to get Tapu Lele, right? So usually have like 100 or so points. I think I forget what we're doing here. Rules. Let's look at the rules. 120 points, right? You must have 11 Pokemon. So you have 120 points to spend. What's happening here? So say you do spend a lot of money on Tapu Lele, right? That's 17 points, right? So let's look at the calculator. Regular old calculator. So you're spending what is this? Okay, so you're spending 17 points on that, plus the 14 Alakazam is worth, right? So plus 14, plus the Hawlucha, which is 13 points, which I think is a very good steal. 13 points. Now you obviously want to get your Alolan Ninetales, which is only 12 points. And then we saw that Alolan Slash is 4 points. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonds, and you've only spent 60 points, right? Now say you went a little cheaper. Now your speed tiers are kind of messed up here. You're going to want to put a lot more time into your speed tiers, but like play around with the value, right? Play around with value and points. Play around with value and tiers. Dragalge can be very good because it's incredibly bulky but hits very hard. That's another thing hyper offense players I think tend to forget. They look for speed and power, but having good bulk and power is excellent too, because you're able to just take one and dish it back out, and that's very important. Or it can be very important. Metagross is very good. I don't know why I didn't mention Metagross earlier. Yeah, get a knockoff user. Wait, what were the main tips? Okay, yeah, keep a lot of momentum. Have a couple like maybe one teleport user. Get something to abuse and knock off. Get Ditto, or don't let other people get Ditto. I don't know how you're gonna do that, but get screens. Get good removal if you're gonna build around like Pinsir. And don't be something you're not. Don't try to wall stuff. You're playing offense here, right? You want to keep everything. If you don't have momentum on Mons, make sure they're the bulkier kind. Make sure that's your Lapras. Make sure that would be your not Metagross. Yeah, Metagross. Make sure that would be your Metagross. All of that. I think Cloyster can be very good because it does have teleport. That's why I said Cloyster was good. I don't know if anyone noticed, but Cloyster I said was good because of Shelf Mask and teleport. Negative priority is important. Make sure you get your screen setters. Screen setters is very important. I think Obviously, Alolan is the best one, but if you can get something else that can kind of do the job as well, that's important. Yeah. Play your strengths, don't be something you're not. Don't try to wall stuff. What else? Yeah, that's kind of it. I think that is everything I want to talk about. Yeah, just go back and watch the tier stuff if you want to know what's valuable in each tier again. We'll kind of go through it really fast once again. I'm not going to give the reasoning anymore. Aegislash. I think I didn't talk about Aegislash. Aegislash is very good because of its versatility, right? Especially physically. It's slow, so it can kind of play around with the King Shield thing. Yeah. Lacevallon, Darm, Dracovish, Dragapult, Dragonite kind of, Gengar kind of, Hawlucha, Infernape, Kartana, Landorus, Latios, Mew, Scizor, Coco, Lele, Terrakion, Urshifu, Victini, Zeraora, Weavile to a lesser extent. I think your tier 1 is much better used in other places. Those are your main ones, really. Tier 2. Yeah, that's kind of it. So, make sure your speed tiers are good. Make sure you don't have stuff to get absolutely demolished by priority. Make sure you're budgeting things out correctly. Yeah, I think that is kind of it. What else? Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Yeah, so just get those pieces, keep a lot of momentum. You know, I already said this a lot, but momentum is a very big deal. You don't want things to be caught without momentum, really. And I think that is going to be it. And goodbye. God bless. Have a nice day.